and models like ODOP, one district, one product, as in UP, can it be emulated? How can skills and creativity create a value-added model for the labor-intensive industries like apparel? What's the role of T-shaped model in this approach? What about the earlier sectoral focus in skill development and current skilling programs, especially for the textile, apparel, fashion, retail, and the lifestyle industries? These and there are more questions being discussed by eminent personalities and thought leaders around this new book, A Runway to Skilled India by Dr. Darli Koshi. Dr. Darli Koshi, since today's roundtable is all about the discussion around your new book, Runway to Skilled India, before we take it with the discussants, I would like to start with you and request you to explain the context of the book. How did you think of writing a book on skilling? What has been the intent and the purpose of this book? Also throw some light on the construct of the book. Dr. Koshi, please.
Thank you. First of all, I must thank each one. The discussants, I can't just call them discussants. They are the people who have played, as we have just heard, great roles in their own fields, and it is a great honor and privilege to really have them around this, discussion. Every book, which you write or which you read, in my view, it's a work in progress. And it is a work in progress for me also. When I joined the National Institute of Fashion Technology in 1987 and got sent for training to FIT New York, I had seen a large variety of skills in the fashion arena and seen excellent people from all over the world studying there, and especially people who are working in the entire fashion avenue, the 7th Avenue, coming in the evenings to study various things. That was very interesting. People who are really teaching were people who are really working in the companies, and the people who are listening to them were also people who are working in various Tiffany's and Harvey Nichols and Macy's and all these companies around the 7th Avenue. So a long 13 years in NIFT exposed me to the government manufacturing technology skills, the fashion design skills, the merchandising skills. And then when I was appointed as the director of National Institute of Design, it was the beginning of a new millennium and a new century. And there, to become director of an iconic institute under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry gave me an opportunity to go beyond the skills which are related to fashion industry, but to see from furniture to ceramic and glass to automobile and transportation skills to software interface design to retail experience design and digital experience design. The world just exploded. In my nearly 9 years as director and with the culmination of the national design policy, one could see that India is really, the gold mine of all these skills. And NID had a special reference to handmade in India. And we could see through the, iconic work of the directory which was created called Handmade in India, in collaboration with the Development Commission Handicrafts, the type of research which went into the clusters and the handicrafts and the setting up of the International Center for Indian Crafts all taught me a great deal about the richness of India's heritage and skills in that period. Thereafter, it is almost like I discovered that these institutions I served 13 plus 9 years, 22 years, were really the harbinger of a skill revolution. 1961, NID was set up by the government of India as a result of Charles Eames and Ray Eames going around the country and writing the India report, extolling the virtues of India's evolved design, how we need to now present themselves into a new era of quality and the kind of not just pickled crafts but in evolving crafts. So they wrote this in that passion. And India report became a document which has inspired hundreds of thousands of designers around the world. So this period of those kind of skills and the skills in NIFT in fashion, probably we had never seen these institutions as the fountainhead of the skills in the country. And a lot of people who are associated with the textiles and apparel somewhere got associated into these institutions. So after this kind of a interesting 2 decades, uh, becoming again rediscovering India's youth in the rural areas and seeing them in their disadvantaged sections. Narayan sir will probably elaborate on that. When we see them and they're look into their eyes and see the aspirational India and how they see the skills around them, one gets inspired. So I've also unknowingly or knowingly moved from the top of the pyramid to the middle of the pyramid and to a large cross section of India which is aspiring to get skilled. So I would say that this is the inspiration to see India as a skilled India. And the last day was an auspicious Makar Sankranti and Pongal Day, and today there is another the big happening of the PMKVY 3.0, and tomorrow the post-COVID scenario with the vaccine opens up. So I think we are seeing the world's changing around us, and that is the context which is probably a little bit captured in the book. As I was telling Ajit Sahab on Sunday, this book is actually a sequel to my book of Indian Design Age, which was written in 2008-9 when Rowley Books had published it. So where one has looked at India's creativity in a great depth, and then when you see the bare skills which are hands-on, and then you had seen also minds-on approach of top-end designers, we see a new paradigm emerging. How can we actually combine skills and creativity to create a new India, which is not purely talking about a labor arbitrage, but in terms of value creation around the world. So in a nutshell, the book explores not revolving around comparison of government schemes or people or institutions really. It is about the desire that, there are some 741 districts in India. There are some 650,000 villages in India. And there is such a great scope for rediscovering some of these, traditional manufacturing clusters and the crafts and the handlooms and the various, there are some 4,371, of these clusters have been mapped and really correlated with different economic activities. So that is one area which the book a little bit explores. And since I participated in the ODOC launch in Lucknow, when the Honorable Chief Minister launched it along with the Honorable President of India. So that was something which I saw that somebody is really doing on the ground. 75 districts in UP, there are 33 districts in Gujarat, there are 14 districts of Kerala, which I made a presentation at the Kerala Design Summit, how each of these districts can be really developed into a large hyperactivity center. So when I saw that, this is happening in UP, I was quite inspired by that example. And you have seen after the migrant crisis, how UP has been able to absorb. And I was just sitting with an Agra-based Dayal Institute's one top academician. She was telling me the inlay work, for example, which was done around the Taj Mahal area, the inlay work is now in great demand. And the people who have been trained in Corel Draw and other such, specialized IT tools, they are now using it for different purposes. So the inlay work or the leather work or the Agra Peda around that area has now suddenly got a new life. And every district it seems to be happening. And I'm glad that the PMKVY is talking about 729 districts being focused in their new scheme. So this is one idea which is being explored in this book. Second is about the farm labor. The Lord Meghan Desai's article, which I've referred to, says that 40% of the people in India are in agriculture, but they contribute only 15% to the GDP. Similarly, the manufacturing sector has about 20% of the people, but they contribute about 25% of the GDP. The rest of the people contribute 60% of the GDP. So almost, we need to now look at where in USA, for example, the agricultural people who are involved in agriculture is less than 3%. In Japan, it's less than 2%. So the day will come in India when this 50% comes to less than 5%. So we need to provide for the reskilling of the farm redundant labor is a big challenge. Similarly, upskilling of the current workforce, which is about 300 million, not out of this 450 million workforce, who are really needing a lot of upskilling because the productivity standards are so low. Global benchmarks, we don't come anywhere. We are 129 on the number of 162 countries in terms of the skilled labor force. Only 20% at the moment. If you take all the working people around, how much of them are skilled is only about 20%. And in the Human Development Index, we are on 131 out of 161 countries. We have a long way to go. And that is where we are looking at the reskilling, upskilling, and the new skilling. And first I wrote about this was in 2014 in our own, a meeting where I said that we need to have a run strategy. So run strategy is not for just one skilling sector. Every sector requires this run strategy. You need to reskill, you need to upskill, and you find out industry revolution or industrial revolution 4.0, and with the cyber physical technologies coming in, you require again new skilling. And post-COVID, there are also other dimensions of social nature which are getting interwoven with the skilling effort. So that's the second large aspect discussed in the book. The last but not the least is the alphabets. We have been talking about economic recovery, whether it's a V-shaped curve or W-shaped curve, etc. But nobody in India is discussing the skill related to the alphabets. Actually, most of the skilling of the India's skilling programs are eye-based. It's a simple one skill area in deep dive. But probably every sector requires different kinds of alphabets. For example, creative people, as probably Sabina would agree, it is probably only looking for T-shaped people, where you have a deep dive and then you have a horizontal bar, which is more of functional and creative enterprise. And then you have for management, you require X-shaped ones. And there are people where you require an M with a convergence in the middle with, or a pie. There is also a pie which says that two adjacent: content creation, design, and you have a convergence somewhere. So this kind of an approach I have briefly dealt with in this book, but I would like to expand it further sometime. And that is an interesting area. And the last but not the least is about the post-COVID area, digitalization. We were surprised that people from all over India during COVID, our students, they were the first ones, along with our faculty, to completely go digital. In practically 25th, the lockdown was declared, 24th, and within a week, all our courses were being offered online. And that is something fantastic. We had from 50% to 75% attendance for the skilled courses online. So there is a revolution happening where haptic devices, more 3D and 5G, kind of transmissions coming in possible. There will be a complete transformation of the costing of the skills, the disruption in the education and skilling system. So there is some kind of a future readiness which are being discussed in this book. So I would say this is the broad themes which I have dealt with. It is not it's a rudimentary book. It's a very, initial kind of, thinking, and with your interpretations and your inputs, I hope we can bring out even, a second edition or a somewhat better, book in the next round of it. So I want to thank each one, and I now leave to Sanjay to take it forward.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thanks a lot for highlighting the various aspects of your book and indicating a new paradigm, which is skill and creativity for the value addition. I would just like to know, did you keep some limitation in mind while writing this book, restricting some horizons or to get more focused on certain aspects?
No, I think the number of pages once I wrote was about 300. To bring it down to 125, I think what Preetha ji said, it became more succinct probably. So that is the only thing. I would have liked to really research more different sectors, which was a limitation because apparel and the textile sector dominates the discussion. Not enough of material from other sectors. So I believe Sectoral Skill Council. See, one of the things is knowledge creation for any area is critical for its growth. And skill development we have been talking about since 2009 with the first policy and the second policy in 2014. And PMKY from 1 to 3 it has reached. But when you think about the knowledge creation, apart from the consulting companies writing reports, the individuals and academicians are not getting involved in the sector. Unless you do that, you cannot expect any sector to claim that they have become a recognizable sector to deal with. That is where this humble contribution should be seen. Just a beginning spark